All right, we are live. Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of I Believe Now What News. If this is your first time here, we are a show that just loves to talk about news from the Christian standpoint. If this is not your first time here, highly encourage you to like, share, and subscribe as it really does help out in pushing this message. And with all that, let's go ahead and jump into what we're talking about today. So, if you couldn't tell by the thumbnail, Oklahoma is now going to mandate that the Bible be taught in public schools. I mean, then this is honestly pretty awesome. We saw not too long ago that the 10 Commandments in Louisiana was passed, that it would be publicly displayed. And I know there's some mixed opinions on there because obviously that's not the gospel. But at the same time, you can make the argument that that could lead to the gospel because if you know your Bible, the entire law does point to Jesus Christ because we cannot fulfill the law as sinful human beings. That's why we have Jesus Christ who fulfilled it for us. And by believing and placing our faith in him, submitting to him as Lord, we can receive his imputed righteousness. And now Oklahoma wants to go ahead and pass the law, basically saying that if you live in Oklahoma, that public schools should be teaching the Bible. And let me just go ahead and hear it from the superintendent himself. So we're going to go ahead and listen to this clip. We're going to read an article and then we're going to kind of discuss and talk about it. And if you guys have any questions or comments along the way, be sure to drop them in the live chat and we will go over that as we get closer to the end. And if you are watching this in the future, by all means, same thing for you to as well. Let's keep the conversation going. All right, here's the video.
Important announcement today regarding the Bible and the Ten Commandments. My staff has been looking at Oklahoma statute. We've been looking at Oklahoma academic standards. And it's crystal clear to us that in the Oklahoma academic standards, under Title 70, multiple occasions, the Bible is a necessary historical document to teach our kids about the history of this country, to have a complete understanding of Western civilization, to have an understanding of the basis of our legal system, and is frankly, when we're talking about the Bible, one of the most foundational documents used for the Constitution and the birth of our country.
Okay, so just real quick thoughts before we finish out the video. So you saw with Louisiana when they put their law in place about the 10 commandments in public schools, they were going with the history route, basically saying this is part of history, this is part of human history, this is part of our country's history. And they were going that route instead of saying basically, hey, look, we believe that more people should be Christian because obviously that is the one true belief that is out there. It looks like Oklahoma is kind of going that same route, saying the Bible is very staple in history, which he's not lying. The Bible is very staple and throughout all of human history. And there's a lot of history lessons to be learned there. Let's go ahead and keep listening in.
We also find major points in history that refer to the Bible, that reference the Bible. We see multiple figures, whether we're talking about the Federalist Papers, constitutional conventional arguments, and Martin Luther King Jr., who use it as a tremendous impetus for the civil rights movement and tie many of those arguments back to the Bible. It is essential that our kids have an understanding of the Bible and its historical context. So we will be issuing a memo today that every school district will adhere to, which is that every teacher, every classroom in the state will have a Bible in the classroom and will be teaching from the Bible in the classroom to ensure that this historical understanding is there for every student in the state of Oklahoma in accordance with our academic standards and state law.
All right. So you heard it right there. And absolutely, Rita. Wow. Amazing. So I do, obviously, if you can't tell, I'm pretty pumped up about this. Now, obviously, this is going to face some staunch opposition. Who knows where it goes from there? But honestly, this is a really good step in a really good direction, I think, because, hey, clap for you, Oklahoma. That's really outstanding because I don't think anything bad can come out of this. If anything, more people are going to hear the gospel and more people could be saved. Or, on the other hand, more people will hear it, more people will reject it, hardening their hearts, doing what was already predetermined inside their heart in the first place. So, with all that being said, let's go ahead and scroll through a little of these comments just to see. And warning, I have not read these yet. So, let's just go ahead and see. So much grandstanding, truth be told, or whatever. So much grandstanding, wasted time. He knows this will get struck down. They are just, excuse me, drinking this this sparkling water over here. But anyways, knows it's going to get struck down. They are just trying to keep the evangelicals fired up. Even if you know it's going to get struck down, why not do what the right thing is? Oh, and of course, you have somebody trying to pull some out of context Bible verses. Wait, shouldn't we be banning the Bible in schools? Isn't that word right there? And adultery taboo topics in the South. And then they try to quote from Genesis 19:32, talking about, and I can't really show that image, talking about Lot and his daughters. Yeah, the funny thing is when people try to disprove the Bible by taking verses like that out of context, they're missing the entire picture. The entire point was that was a bad act. That was not a good act. And the Bible doesn't ever say that that's a good act, nor does the Bible ever teach that. So, joke's kind of on you because you just randomly pulled a passage out of context. There's a lot of things, especially in the Old Testament, in the Bible that were bad, and nowhere does it say this is what you should be doing when it comes to certain things like that. Once again, just shows misunderstandings of how people don't really know the Bible when they are commenting on it. Obviously, if you're going to say something's wrong, at least read it beforehand. Good luck with that. Our founders did not flee a religious monarchy just to build an evangelical theocracy. Yeah, so obviously a lot of haters. Sorry for that word there. Yeah, like I said, I did not preview those comments beforehand. So let's go ahead and just kind of jump into this article. So, Oklahoma mandates Bible teaching at public schools. Necessary historical document. This is by Ryan Foley. It comes from the Christian Post. And we'll go ahead and read some of this article. So, the Oklahoma Department of Education has announced its intention to mandate that public schools in the state include Bibles in every classroom and teach about its historical significance as supporters of separation of church and state signal their intentions to fight back. Of course they will. Oklahoma State Superintendent of Instruction, Ryan Walters, said Thursday that he and his staff came to the conclusion based on academic standards governing the state. The Bible is, and it goes through what they talked about in that interview we just read. I won't read the whole thing and bore you to death. Double do it. But the Bible is a necessary historical document to teach our kids about the history of the country. Once again, going that historical route. He cited the Federalist Papers used to convince states to ratify the U.S. Constitution, arguments used during the Constitutional Convention, and Martin Luther King Jr., as you heard there, as an example of the documents and people who tied many of their arguments back to the Bible. He ends out saying that it is essential that our kids have an understanding of the Bible and its historical context. Walters announced that his agency was issuing a memo asking school districts in the state to require that, quote, every teacher, every classroom in the state will have a Bible in the classroom and will be teaching from the Bible in the classroom to ensure that this historical understanding is there for every student in the state of Oklahoma in accordance with their academic standards. Throughout his remarks, Walters repeatedly mentioned Title 70 of the Oklahoma state statutes when insisting that the state had the authority to require schools to teach about the Bible. The statute declares that school districts shall exclusively determine the instruction, curriculum, reading lists, and instructional materials and textbooks subject to any applicable provisions or requirements as set forth in law to be used in meeting the subject matter standards. And honestly, why not? Why not? Because as Christians, we have a different take, obviously, on things when it comes to creation versus evolution, things of that nature. Why does the government get to go ahead and declare that evolution is the standard of which everything, when you have so many other scientists, credible scientists, saying, no, creation is a very, very viable subject? Why can't that be taught in schools? Why does the government get to mandate their religion and we can't mandate our religion? Well, good off to you once again, Oklahoma, and going ahead and doing this. School districts may, at their discretion, adopt supplementary student assessments, which are in addition to the statewide student assessments the statute states. The memo comes after the Oklahoma Supreme Court ruled that a state-funded Catholic charter school was unconstitutional. So Oklahoma trying to get a state-funded Catholic charter school, and it got shot down. You are not going to find the separation of church and state in the Constitution, Walters asserted at the meeting, as he reacted to the decision and transitioned into talking about why he saw it as necessary for schools to teach about the Bible. In a public statement, of course, you're going to have the naysayers. In a public statement published Thursday, Americans united for separation of church and state. What a sad company this probably is, just going after people's beliefs. But Church of State President and CEO Rachel Lasser proclaimed public schools are not Sunday schools. Oklahoma Superintendent Ryan Walters has repeatedly made it clear that he is incapable of distinguishing the difference and that he is unfit for office. His latest scheme to mandate the use of the Bible in Oklahoma public schools curriculum is a transparent, unconstitutional effort to indoctrinate and religiously coerce public school students, she added. Well, what do you think the government's doing? What do you think the government's doing, Miss Rachel Lasser? They are indoctrinating with what they say is the real religion. That is their mandated religion on whatever they want to teach and believe. Why can't Christian schools bring out a different opinion? Why can't Oklahoma choose for its public schools to bring out their own decision? Seriously, it is not a bad thing. This is why we are the United States of America, because you have like-minded people grouped up in the state and they elect officials according to their like mind. They don't need the big government coming down and saying, no, you cannot do this. If Oklahoma wants to be a Christian state, if Louisiana wants to be a Christian state, why not let them be a Christian state? Why mandate that they cannot do that? Because it doesn't fit in with the big government scheme. This textbook, this is, she says, of course, she busts out the Christian nationalism word. This is textbook Christian nationalism. Walters is, you ever notice these people now, all for the separate, anything Christian, they try to label as Christian nationalism. They just throw that word out there like it's the new buzzword. This is textbook Christian nationalism. Walters is abusing the power of his public office to impose his religious beliefs on everyone else's children. Whoa! Kind of like the government does with all of their mandated stuff, imposing their beliefs, the beliefs in evolution and beliefs in what you see in LBGT alphabet, school agendas, all this stuff, go out to California, wherever the case may be. This, seriously, you're just literally wanting to pick your style of poison as opposed to, not letting Oklahoma pick their, not poison, but life, because that's what the Bible is. It has life inside of it. Not on our watch, she says. America's United is ready to step in and protect all Oklahoma public school children and their families from constitutional violations of their religious freedom. Yeah, okay. Well, you know what? Oklahoma voted for their public officials, and this is what they're getting. So there you have it. And so with all that being said, honestly, I think this is awesome. If you couldn't tell, I'm honestly very happy about this. I think this is great. Will it face adversity? Absolutely, as you saw. Will this continue through? Who knows? Maybe it won't. Somebody brought up when we go back over here to the Twitter feed here, and it says, in that truth be told, or whatever that guy's name is, so much grandstanding, wasted time. This man, Ron Flipkowski, I'm not sure who he is. Maybe he's popular and I'm just, kind of living under a rock. But he said, have you been paying attention to the Supreme Court lately? Because I heard that from a lot of people, that when I was saying back in 2020, 2021, that Roe v. Wade was about to be overturned, I predict this time next year, they'll completely rewrite the concept of the separation of church and state. And you're right. There's a lot of people who never thought Roe v. Wade would be overturned, but guess what? It got overturned. Now, obviously, I would be for a 100% ban against abortion, excluding, this is my personal opinion, please take it for what it is, but, excluding if the wife's life or the woman's life was in dire, like she was going to die, if it was one of those life and death decisions. I don't really know how to properly word that, but because everything else, it's not the baby's fault. But when it comes to a life for a life, that's a decision that you got to take to the Lord, and between a husband and a wife. But anyways, continuing on before I get way too far out of topic, let's see what y'all absolutely think. Terry Burton over here said, judgment has begun. Rita Schultz has commented saying, this is absolutely amazing. This is what I learned in school. Our kids do not know what our country's historical founding is based on the Bible. So yeah, there's a lot of questions that go in with all the different stuff when it comes to our documents and what they believed in. I know we know that the founding fathers, they were basically deists or open theists for the most part. There were some Christians in there, a lot of debates on it. But honestly, like I said, what is going to go wrong when you actually have the Bible being taught? Obviously, you need to have qualified people being taught or teaching the Bible. Let me get my words straight. You need to have qualified people teaching the Bible, because you don't want the Bible in the hands of somebody who is a false teacher or a just unlearned teacher. The Bible is very clear. Now, if you're teaching it just from the historical context, then maybe that's a different, type of thing altogether. But honestly, like I said, either people can hear the gospel and they could be won to Christ, or people will hear the gospel and they will reject it. It's a stumbling block for those who are not believing, for those who have hardened their heart to Christ. And, as much as we don't like to go on this part, and while I truly believe that, anybody, Christ died for the sins of the world, can believe, there are people who are not going to believe, that it has been put down from long ago, and their hearts are just going to be hardened by this. But that's God's operation going. His word will not return back void. It's going to do exactly what he set it out to do, whether it causes somebody to believe or causes somebody to reject. All right, so without getting too much into soteriology and things of that nature, that's all I was going to talk about. We do have another live stream coming up here at the top of the hour, because there are some sad things going on in Africa that we're going to be talking about. So if you want to, by all means, please stay tuned to that. But for everybody else who's watching this in the future, I love y'all. Y'all have a wonderful Monday, and I will see y'all on the next one.